All right, mics are on. We're getting ready to start the meeting. We have just a few seconds left. Hello to Mr. Tim Parker on the phone.
Hello, and how are you,
Well,
David?
sir, well, and how are you doing?
Good.
Excellent. All right, it's 6 p.m. I'm going to call the meeting to order. If you would please, all rise. And Jason, how would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening?
Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Roll call, please. Present.
Here. Here.
Here. Here. Very good. Posting of the agenda declaration, please.
The agenda for tonight's regular board meeting was posted on Friday, May 6th.
All right, thank you. Conflict of interest declaration. Director Rotora.
Negative.
Director Griffin.
None.
Director Cordell.
None.
Vice President Boyd.
None.
President St. Amand says that he has no conflicts of interest, but that being said, he must inform you that he is an employee of the federal government. However, his opinions expressed this evening do not necessarily reflect those of his employer, nor does it necessarily reflect the other members of the board of directors. Thank you. All right, item 6, public questions and comments. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desiring to address the board on any matter not on the agenda and over which the board has jurisdiction. However, no action may be taken by the board of directors on any item not appearing on the agenda. Non-agenda speakers are asked to limit their presentation to 5 minutes. Public questions and comments on items listed on the agenda will be accepted at any time the item is brought forth for consideration by the board. When you're recognized by the chair, please state your name and address for the record. Thank you. Do we have any? Yes, we do. All right, very good.
Good morning, gentlemen, or good afternoon, gentlemen. The reason I'm here is really just to thank the Indian Wells Valley Water District for arranging the meeting that you have with DWR. Someone stepped up to the plate. The GA as a whole didn't want to do it, but you guys stepped up to the plate. I truly appreciate it. And I don't know if you're going to announce it tonight, so I believe it's the 17th at City Hall, starting at 6 a.m.? 6 p.m., not 6 a.m., 6 p.m. I'm sort of backwards. I'm getting ready to retire, so I forget. Yeah, I'll be there at 6 a.m. So again,
Come early if you want to.
Yeah.
You know,
Thank you so much. It's really needed. I hope you get the word out to the public. I hope there's a lot of public there. There's a lot of obviously concerns, questions that need to be asked, and that's a place to do it. So I'm looking forward to it. How long do you expect that to last, Jim? 2 hours. 2 hours? Ooh, are you limited?
2 hours.
Really, a DWR and Stantec, the facilitator, they're really going to lead it's their show, so
Right.
it's scheduled for 2 hours. I suspect it'll be pretty close to 2 hours, and it won't go too much longer.
Okay, thank you. And thank you.
All right, thank you, Ron. Is there anyone else who would like to address us?
Yes, good evening, gentlemen. Mike Neal. And I second what Mr. Kaczynski had to say. Appreciate this being brought to the public for their chance for comment in front of representatives of the DWR. I looked at this agenda, this basic agenda, and there's a lot of people getting to talk, I guess, before they get to the Q&A, and I hope that portion will be somewhat limited, because I guarantee you comments and things like that from the public on this issue could easily go 2 hours all on its own without any of the officials having a word to say. So if they take an hour or more than that and then say, oh, we got to quit at 8, you only got an hour to talk, and it'd probably be people disappointed not getting their right to be heard. I personally had written a letter to DWR before the approval of the GSP and informed them that there is a serious disagreement between, what they're saying the recharge is and what they're reporting year after year as to what the change of groundwater storage was, and got no reply actually from them. So I can't say I have a lot of faith in them listening to us, but it's good to have them here. Maybe they will when we're face to face with them. An additional question is, there's an item on the agenda tonight, and I asked Mr. Zadiba, but I still am not clear. And I believe it falls under item 7A, under approval of meeting, approval of the minutes. It's part of the Finance Committee minutes, and it's 15 pages of documentation on, it's called the financial plan findings, and basically it's a prelude to rate study, and it's got talking about raising rates, and raising rates actually quite a bit. So do I talk about that now, or do I wait till item 7A1, I guess is, I think, where it would be?
Well, that rate study is technically only on the agenda tonight because it was included in the minutes of that particular committee meeting. It won't be presented to the board until next month's meeting. So I
And to be
think,
clear, the only minutes that are being approved are the minutes from the April board meeting. That's all that's being approved.
That's correct. The item is not on the agenda. It's just part of the committee reports. The only thing the board ever approves are the board minutes. These are not board minutes, these are committee minutes. And the presentation's part of the committee, and it will be properly agendized for the June, and they'll go through the presentation. So
Okay,
so you should have,
it's informational only, Mr. Neal, at this
Right.
time.
right,
so I'm just going to take the rest of my time then.
okay.
Make a few
You've got 2 minutes, sir.
Fair's comments, okay? And I'll reference these so you gentlemen can look at them, I guess yourself. You may or may not have. Basically, there's talk of raising the rates, and let me reference the page. There's 2 pages actually, but the one is the worst case. It's page 12, and it's the financial forecast. And it's real easy to find. It's down in the lower left of that page, and it's talking about a 5-year cumulative rate increase of 55%. Now, that's one of these. Sorry to tell you that, but in the times that we're in, to be looking forward to, and it goes on to 2033. It gets a little less worse, and not quite that bad, but it still continues at 5%. A lot of rate increase rates being proposed in this finance. The other item is on the prior page, page 11, talking about inflation rates. And it says, based on a memorandum of understanding, salaries in the district apparently are going to plan to go up 8% for 2 years, and then 5% after that. Now, I hate to sound like a bad guy, but that sounds like a little bit too much. That with nobody else in this valley, I don't believe, I know the employees on the base definitely are not getting 8%, not even close to 5% most years. And for some reason, the employees for the district are getting a really good deal, getting nice pay, a plan to get nice pay raises. Of course, we have to pay for that.
All right.
On top of the GA fees and everything else. Utilities are 10%. And then, I hope this gets explained much better than what's in here. It just says other, another 3%. So that's a lot of supposed, apparently claimed cost increase. A lot of rate increase, and you need to explain this really well to the public if you're going to get away with this without a lot of complaining.
All right, thank you. Appreciate your comments. We will be having this on the agenda at the next meeting of the board. Thank you. All right, is there?
President, I'd like to make a comment if I could in response to Mr. Neal. Mr. Neal and the rest of the public that is out there listening, the board has not voted to make it clear on any type of a rate increase. All this was a presentation that was made to the committee of 2 board members. And so I myself have not had a chance to review it, and I know other board members have not. So we have not even looked at this study, and we will look at it, and it will be presented at the June board meeting. So then we can all pay attention to see what it is going to be, and then we'll take action, but not until that time. So thank you.
Are there any other comments from the public?
Judy Decker, a member of PAC, which is the Policy Advisory Committee for the Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority. I see you're having a different kind of meeting, a meeting with DWR. I want to give you a heads up now. The public, a lot of them are very, very confused. they go to the Groundwater Authority meeting and complain about rates, when in fact, they should be here at your water district board meeting, because those are the rates they're talking about. Now you're having, you had not one, but, excuse me, 2 meetings on your comprehensive adjudication, which was a great idea, and was certainly the second one was well attended. And now you're having a meeting with DWR. I believe you need to write a rather lengthy press release and simply explain things to the public as far as what the differences in the organizations are. Because they're already quite confused. And whenever something like money comes up, they get very upset, which of course they should. If Mr. Neal has gone to the grocery store lately, I believe the rate there is about 10% per week.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else here who would like to address the board? All right, do we have anybody online that would like to address the board? I see that the phone is red, so I'll take that as a no. And then we'll move on to item 7, consent calendar.
President, I would like to make note that if we go to the Finance Committee meeting, before we accept that, it says that I was in attendance and I was not. I believe that was Director Cordell. And so we could change that to where I was not in attendance at that Finance Committee.
So noted, thank you. Are there any other comments, corrections? All right, can I have a motion to accept the consent calendar?
I'll move to accept.
I'll second.
Okay, let us call for the vote then.
President St. Amand,
Aye.
Director Cordell,
Yes.
Director Griffin,
Yes.
Director Rotora,
Yes.
Vice President Boyd.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So we have I presume the accounts payable was included in that, or is that a different discussion? Dawn? Accounts payable? That's everything, including the resolution? All
I
right,
think that includes everything.
all right, very good. Item B, Plant and Equipment Committee. Who would like to tackle that?
Well, the acceptance of the contract work for ATSI, I'll take care of. And we have a little slideshow for you to kind of give you an overview of what the new system looks like. I apologize for those of you right underneath the TV. Skata, yeah.
That's great. You're on the cowboy.
Oh, okay. We'll get there, and then we'll go back. Preview of the work up at Gateway. All right.
Thanks for the clarification.
So this is an overview of our system. The first thing you may notice is that it's completely gray and lacks color. This is not an accident. This is done on purpose. Some of you may recall Texaco Pembroke, SO Longford, and BP Texas City explosions. Those were caused by operators not seeing alarms because the screen was so colorful. And in fact, the study was commissioned by the United States Navy and found that users of simple abstract graphics like these outperformed users of what they call video game style graphics by 70%. So while it is boring to look at, it is safer and protects the district assets and supply systems more effectively. Next.
I like it better.
This site is another overview screenshot, and it shows what it looks like when there are alarms. This is a security alarm. You can tell by the alarm bell up in the corner there, and the indicator next to the security header. Next one. This is when the operator goes in to check what the alarm is. You can see all the sites that we have and what the alarms are. In this case, we have the Gateway Booster site, the tank. The East Ladder had a motion alarm. Also, Well 10 security shows a building door entrance and motion within the building. This shows the operator has been online and has acknowledged that they received the alarm. That's why the red square is gone. They now have to log in and clear the alarm, and that will get rid of the red circles. This screen is an overview of the reservoirs. It shows, we simulated these alarms for you. It shows the Bowman Reservoir in a state called high, which is the first alarm state that says that the tank is receiving too much water and there's a possibility of overflow, and could indicate that the well didn't receive the message to turn off. Salisbury is in a high state, which is basically going to overflow in any point in time now. So it's more critical and obviously a different color. It also shows the site security alarms on this page as well, as you see from the ladder rack on Gateway Reservoir. This is a sample well. This is well 34. On this, you can see the operator can see quickly the security, current water level, pump status, the flow, the pressure, the residual, the hypochlorite level, and levels of the controlling reservoirs. From the screen, the operator can adjust the hypochlorite pump speeds as well as the pump start and stop settings. Next. This is a booster pump screen. On this screen, the operator can see the security, supply tank levels, pump status, flow, pressure, and controlling tank levels. And again, the operator would adjust pump, start, and stop settings in the screen. This screen is an overall health report of the district's radio network. You can see how many transmissions were sent, how many were received, how many failures, and what the percentage rate is. Here we can see the complexities of the arsenic plant, at least some of them. The operator can quickly get the overall status of the plant, what the filter status is, the flows, the effluent and waste tank levels, and residuals. Next. And finally, we have a PRV, which when it is upgraded, will have the ability to more accurately monitor the flow of water and provide the operator adjustability to the flows, allowing the district more flexibility in using the southwest well field. And some of the new features with this system are remote adjustable chemical feed rates at the wells and arsenic plant, flexibility and ease in instrumentation replacement and installation, power monitoring, which is a notification of power loss when we're operating on battery, when the battery needs replacement, and also when the battery is fully charged again. There are now totalizers for every well, which should facilitate easier monitoring and reporting for the state. And the arsenic plant monitor and adjust chemical doses, filter status, run times, effluent and backwash flows, waste tank levels and flows, and influent and effluent pH levels. So this is a much more efficient system, one that the operators can control everything here at the office, making it a lot easier on them so that if they get a call in the middle of the night, they can make adjustments from their house and not have to roll out to the site. And with all that, the staff recommends acceptance of the completion for the SCADA system upgrade with ATSI and the final payment of $4,700, bringing the final project cost to $763,577.60 versus the approved budget amount of $790,000.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Is this active now or
This
not?
is active. This has actually we've been using it for a few months while they were upgrading it.
I
But
think it's fantastic. I can't believe it.
Any other comments or questions from the board?
It's true.
Anybody in the public or online wish to make a comment? Yes, sir.
This is Don Decker. I have a question. You have made a significant upgrade, improving your operational efficiencies, but it also obviously exposes your operation more thoroughly than before. And my question is, I assume that there has been a thorough evaluation of your security, and I'm not asking for any details here. I'm just asking the general question, a serious upgrade to security that would be appropriate to match up with what you have now gotten with your improved. That's my question. What
Yeah,
about
cy-
security?
Mr. Decker, cybersecurity is something that we take very seriously, and with the installation of this came the installation of a firewall, and also we have a redundancy within the server itself, so that if something should happen, we have a mirrored image of copies of it.
Yeah, Mike Neal again. This just spurred one question. I've been telling people what district does not chlorinate their water, but I heard hypochlorite referred to. So am I wrong when I tell people that?
Yes,
Okay, is this regularly chlorinated?
yes.
Okay, I guess I was wrong.
Yeah, I think the chlorination is a state and federal requirement, is it not?
For several years now.
Yeah.
15, 16, 17 years? Yeah, long time.
Long time.
You know, ever since, 9/11.
Before I started here, yeah.
All right, were there any additional questions? Anybody online that has a question or a comment? All right. I would entertain a motion to accept the contract work.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, the call for the vote, please.
President Sanamon,
Aye?
Director Cordell,
Yes.
Director Griffin,
Yes.
Director Retora,
Yes.
Vice President Boyd.
Yes.
The motion passes. All right. Item 2, duplex, triplex, multifamily connections policy.
All right, in your packet, you'll find several pages related to this out of our sales and service policy manual. That is ordinance 104 that was adopted in the end of 2018. So this is regarding a section on capital facility fees, a little bit of an additional language. I'm sorry. Is there a public comment for the last item? Okay, maybe we should take the.
All right, we have a comment on the previous item, Good evening. Caller, please state your name and residence.
Yes, this is Renee Westalusk. I just have a question regarding this new monitoring system you just voted for. Are there safeguards built into the system so that if the operator makes a mistake in adjusting the hypochlorite levels or something else having to do with the arsenic treatment, is there something that the system will alarm and so the operator can backtrack and correct it?
To answer your question, yes. If the operator were to accidentally put in a wrong speed and too much hypochlorite is being pumped in, there is a residual testing at every well site, and it would alarm the operator that there's been an error.
Okay, so there's all these safeguards built into the system, correct?
100%, multiple safeguards.
Okay, thank you.
So welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Westalusk. All right. Very good. So we're going to carry on, please.
Okay. There's some additional language here that we're just looking for an agreement at this point on the language. This is what we talked about last month, the duplex, triplex connections policy. So we added some language. Staff looked at it. Jim had to add a couple of words in there. He just couldn't help himself. So we added some language. It's on the red line there. It says there is, this
policy. So we added.
Oh, mute yourself, Tim. Okay, so all residential, commercial, public, industrial, agricultural connections shall be levied a capital facility fee based on their meter size. And then after that, it says there is an exception for duplex and triplex connections. If an owner or developer constructing a duplex or triplex provides water usage calculations to the district, the capital facility fee and other connection fees will be based on the water needed for the development, although each unit will still be individually metered. So this is what we had talked about and what we have done the last couple times we've had a variance request come to the board. So this would be added to our policy, and therefore those kinds of requests would not need to come to the board anymore.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from the board? All right, any questions or comments from the public? I don't see anyone. Let's give it just a second, in case the lag is,
I think it takes about 15 to 20 seconds.
While we're waiting, just to be clear, the change wouldn't go into the new ordinance because we're looking at a rate hike. All the changes that go into the sales and service policy would go in at one time. So we're just asking for approval of the wording at this time.
right?
And then it would be incorporated when we make all the changes in the next iteration of the sales and service policy.
Okay, thank you. All right, I don't see any comments. I would entertain a motion to accept that the language is good.
I'll make a motion to say the language is good.
I'll second that.
All right.
I was wondering what I was gonna say, or I would have said it too.
Are there any is there any board discussion? Okay, let's call for the vote then.
President St. Amant,
Aye.
Director Cordell,
Yes.
Director Griffin. Yes. Director Retora,
Yes.
Vice President Boyd.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Item C, the Groundwater Authority Annual Report. Who would like to tackle this? Stan?
Sure. The board will recall that there was discussion at the March board meeting regarding the level of a review of the annual report prepared by the IWVGA. As a result of that discussion, district staff was directed to discuss the concept of having the annual reports be reviewed and approved by the GA board prior to submission to DWR. We had that discussion at the staff level, and I'll just say that we did not reach agreement. So it's staff's recommendation that the district board send a letter to the GA board requesting that this item be placed on the GA agenda. And I've taken the liberty of preparing a letter for the board's review and revision if needed. But we're looking for authority for the president to sign and send the letter to the GA regarding the annual report. That's all I have, but I'll answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
All right, board, any questions for Mr. Worth?
Sounds like I want to do it.
Okay. All right, and you're just looking for authority to present a letter draft to us?
No, I'm looking for a motion to approve the form of the letter and for it to be signed by the board president and sent to the GA.
Okay, has everybody on the board had a chance to look at the letter?
Yes.
The draft?
So move.
All right, is there any discussion? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and ask for public comment, please. It wasn't seconded yet.
Don Decker. I think the letter that you're looking at is totally appropriate and necessary. I'll point out one other omission that exists at this point, and that is the committees, especially the TAC, is not in the loop except in a limited way, and there needs to be some more formal consideration. There's a substantial amount of material in, for example, the latest annual report that is incomplete, and had someone with a technical understanding of the basin looked at it would say, wait a minute, what's going on here? And so I'm just pointing out the additional thing that would be very desirable to have in your letter.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ron Kosinski. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Stan, haven't you been trying to get the GA board to do this all along?
Oh, yes. And with no luck at all, and that's why we've resorted to sending a letter to get an item on the agenda.
That's what I was asking. It's trying to get the GA board to move off center by making it more formal. It's sad to see. You would hope
Yes,
that
it
you could
is.
come up to the board and get it done without a formal letter coming from, and I take it the letters to the GA, or is it to the DWR?
To the GA.
Okay, all right. I think it needs to be done. It's sorry to see that the district needs to take a lead in something like this again, a more formal method. I would hope that the director that sits on the GA would get better response. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, sir. One more?
Yes, Mike Neal. So I heartily agree with Mr. Decker's recommendation, and I would suggest possible something, agenda item like this in the future to request the GA pay more attention to their TAC committee and listen to them. I would venture outside of Mr. Rotora, any given member of the TAC committee has more water sense than any other two members of the GA board. Most of them sit there like bumps on a log. They approve everything the staff recommends. They don't appear to really be thinking very much on a lot of the items, and continue to be a huge disappointment to the members of the public who have, taken their time to follow along, be engaged in this effort. And the annual report has, I already pointed out, and I'll just state a number here tonight, or had 4 prior years of the groundwater storage change reported in it, which was vastly different from the recharge amount, which is the golden number all this is hinged on since day one. And now you have this huge disagreement, and they have to do the annual report, I believe, according to Sigma law, but they try to just sweep it under the rug and ignore the numbers. And then when you have one of their board members, bring it up, then they find it convenient to just act like you didn't say anything and go on about their business.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. Any more comments in the audience present or online? Let's give it just a few seconds. All right, very good. I believe that Stan has made a motion.
I will second it.
I was going to say, I have one more comment if I could. Okay. Is it too late for a comment?
Yeah, we have a motion and a second. Board discussion.
Okay, thank you. Given that there's no obvious urgency to push this through, and I have reviewed the letter, but I hadn't taken into consideration a perspective that Dr. Decker submitted to the group, would it be appropriate for us to delay producing the letter today and look at the TAC involvement to be codified in this letter more obviously so that their role can play in the approval?
It's my opinion that we should move forward with it, only because we've requested this for 2 to 3 years now. The TAC has brought it up, the PAC has talked about it, everybody's asked for the annual report, and each time we ask for something to be on the agenda, it gets rejected. And so that's my opinion.
I would agree. I think we need to move forward. It's taken long enough. It shouldn't be this hard to get something on the agenda. In fact, it's been way too hard to get this to be actually an approved document. Should have been all along. I think we need to move forward. And certainly the discussion can be had when it's on the agenda to throw in additional items, such as the TAC involvement and the PAC involvement, et cetera.
Okay. I agree with Chucky and Stan and Mr. Decker and everybody here that the TAC and PAC have never, well, in the last 3 or 4 years, have never got any respect from the GA. We used to have regular meetings with 40, 50 people here. But nobody cares anymore, and they just ignore everything that we suggest. They need to come up with information. We've paid them over $4 million. We deserve the right to read it and see it. So that's it.
My thoughts are breaking these things into bite-sized pieces are appropriate. We were going to send them a letter asking them to have the board approve it. I think Stan could raise the issue now about having the TAC look it over first as well and make that the next thrust. Okay. All right, any additional questions or discussion? Let's call for the vote then, please.
President St. Amant,
Aye.
Director Cordell,
Yes.
Director Griffin,
Yes.
Director Ruatora,
Yes.
Vice President Boyd.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Item D, Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority, Director Rotora.
The last GA meeting was on April 13th, and the next GA meeting is on May 11th. That's this Wednesday, 2 days from now. From a management activity or concern perspective, first, I would like to acknowledge a letter from the GA requesting the Water District pay for the fallowing program. I'm assuming you all got that letter, and I'm assuming that we'll respond in the near future. I would also like to acknowledge DWR approving a $7.6 million GA grant for round one Sigma implementation. Now that's good news, but the less than good news is it can only be used for planning an interconnection for the imported water project. You recall, we tried to push for getting other stuff included in the grant and got no traction at all. But we did get the grant, so that is good news. The next topic, we've already dealt with the annual report concern that I've raised numerous times, and I appreciate the board's support on that. Next, our GSP was approved January 2022 with the stipulation that the next GSP release should resolve 19 specific deficiencies. We currently have no plan in place to resolve those deficiencies. We need a plan with a schedule and a budget that ensures the 19 deficiencies are fixed in a timely manner. I will be working on getting the GA to develop such a plan. We can't just go on spending money without having a plan and a schedule as well as a budget. In terms of financial activity, May is the 17th month after the end of the 2020 fiscal year. The FY 2020 audit has still not been released. The GA agenda does not include an audit agenda item. However, there is on the on the GM report, an item that includes a 2020 draft audit update. I've never seen a draft audit update before, so I'm going to be curious to see what it says. Under project activities and concerns, 6 years into the GA operations, we still do not have a validated method to measure change to groundwater and storage. Thus, we cannot calculate recharge or overdraft. We cannot control what we cannot measure. The GSP should have validated a methodology, and then the water year 2019, 2020, and 2021 annual reports should have increased our database. We are now at least 3 years behind where we should be. Stetson has now decided that we need to measure the groundwater change 2 ways. No explanation why, just we need to do this. I will be tracking this closely until we get this critical issue under control. Okay, on a more positive note, most of the wells scheduled to be measured in March 2022 were measured. The 25 or so that were not measured are assumed to not be critical to evaluating our sustainability indicators. Now, before Don gets up and talks about the wells that we don't have to measure, there's a void. Obviously, there's a data gap, wells that haven't been measured that probably should be measured that weren't scheduled, as well as non-wells that still have to be dug, that have to be measured before we can perhaps get the real numbers. But that's a kind of a separate issue. And so Stetson was able to be much more successful this year. They obviously put a good deal more work into it. And most of the 25 wells that were not measured, I think were just family-owned individual wells that are not necessarily, well, certainly were not part of the 41 that are required for the current method we have of measuring the well overdraft. So that is it for now.
All right. Are there any questions for Director Torp on the board?
I have not a question, a comment. I don't want to sound negative because, you know, we did get a grant and that is a good thing, but it's also a bad thing. In my opinion, a grant's not free money. A grant is money that taxpayers pay, so there's nothing for free. But I wish that this grant could have been used for something productive is what bums me out, because if it could have been used for wastewater or something that we could move forward with to put an immediate fix on the problem. And I think that's where we're at. That's the frustration level with the grant. Not that it's not good, but we should be using it for something that's going to give us some new water immediately.
Yeah. I tried to make that point at the GA meeting, and it was another one of those 4-1 votes. So, you know, what can you do? Appreciate your comment, though.
Okay, anyone else? All right.
Who ended up paying for the measurements? Did the county do it or did the GA do it?
I'm sorry, what?
Who paid for the well measurements? The county or the GA?
I'm assuming it's the GA, but a lot of
Kern
it
County?
is in-kind service from the Kern County Water District, although.
That's what Don just said, yeah.
Stetson did hire some additional help that I think did actually end up doing some of the measurements, because the Kern County Water Agency still has the same problem with COVID they had. And so the Kern County Water Agency did not do as many as they normally would. But that's something that we need to watch in the future to make sure that if Kern County Water Agency can't do what they signed up to do, that we make sure that they get done. Even if we have to pay someone to do it. I mean, that's Stetson's job to see that they get read or measured.
Yeah.
And they did this year. So, I mean, I got to hand it to them.
Now, does the GA have a budget for that $7.5 million?
They had, I think, in the grant, a distribution of funding for what would be spent where, although I'm assuming that it's a very top level. And I doubt sincerely if it would go down into the detail that you would actually use under, you know, for a real construction project, although it's for planning. Remember, there's no dirt turned and or anything like that. It's strictly for planning. So I don't know how much planning will be done, although I hope there will be some. In terms of both a schedule and a budget. But the money has to be spent, I believe, is it 2 years, Don?
I think 2 years. It's for planning and permitting, also the permitting process for the project.
We just don't know the project.
And it also should be noted that it looks like there's going to request authorization to send out an RFP, so it probably will be a different engineering firm other than the water resource manager conducting at least portions of the study.
Well, I think that's actually a positive when it comes right down to it, because they'll have to coordinate and they'll have to have some type of planning to who's going to be doing what, in what time frame, and how much money is going to be going to each group. So I think that's a positive, although I haven't seen anything except the name on the agenda item.
But it is listed Wednesday on the Wednesday's agenda.
That's correct, and I didn't mean to imply that it wasn't a good thing. This is something that the district does routinely for these types of projects, and I think the GA doing it is also positive. Thank you.
Okay. My only comment is I find it a little alarming that it's the 2020 audit has not yet been delivered. That seems a little worrisome to me. All right, very good. Let's go on to questions and comments from the public, please.
Ron Kosinski. Yeah, when I heard about that particular grant, 7.6 million, the first thing I thought was, wow, Stetson's gonna get paid $7+ million. It's nice to see that they're going off for RFPs on the plan, but who's gonna write the RFPs? Stetson? And I believe they probably will. So I have a couple of comments. First of all, it looks like we're putting money into something that we don't quite understand yet what the impact on this valley is gonna be. It's a rush forward without understanding a lot of issues. And one of them I always come up when I've been talking to people about is what's called a socio-economic impact. I think that $7.6 million ought to have somebody do a socio-economic impact. What is the impact on this community, economically speaking, when you're looking at roughly 12,000 ratepayers who will be paying the bill to operate this pipeline and any outstanding bonds on it, as well as buying the water? So I have a real issue that has not been looked at. Everyone seems to think that we have this community that can just dole out money left and right, no matter how much they get charged on their water bill to pay for something. I can tell you the lack of trust for the GA is increasing regularly for reasons, as many things Stan have said, the lack of the audits, the lack of being upfront. Again, who's going to write this RFP? And I know, Stan, you're going to ask these questions, and I expect that anything that gets asked is going to get pushed aside. I fully expect that. So it's nice to have $7.6 million, but I can see right where it's going to go. They're going to be paying for something that, in my belief, this community cannot afford or ever afford. And that is a serious issue. And hopefully DWR looks at that and hears about it as well. Filling data gaps, definitely got to do it. I mean, you don't even have the data gaps filled and you're already planning pipelines. And I think part of it was permitting. I hope if they start looking at permitting, they're going to run up against all the legal issues involved, and I expect there'll be a whole lot of legal issues involved for a pipeline coming this way. So I'm just saying that $7.6 million is nice. I honestly believe that Stetson's going to end up with that being paid to them mostly, even though they may be writing RFPs. They sort of have a hand up in writing RFPs, don't they, if they're going to be bidding on it? So that's something I'd watch real close if I was you guys. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kaczynski.
Just for clarification, this is the first time it's on the agenda, so there's no indication that Stetson's going to draft the RFP and then bid on it. So just for clarification. Thank you, that's all.
All right, next.
Don Decker. Stan knew I was going to say something about the missing wells, and I will, but it's going to be very brief. For the purpose of the calculation of loss of storage, there are 41 wells that were selected that were not really run through the TAC in a way that resulted in any effective input. A third of the basin that's active is not monitored. It's not just a question of a few wells missing, it's a third of the basin, including the southwest that you guys are pumping extensively. It's not, you've got one well that is in the monitoring set. So it's BR3 for the record, near the landfill. And the issue there is partly money. Who is and how is the additional well field missing wells going to be paid for? Gene Moran, whom I am in reasonably frequent contact, is fully aware of the issue that I have brought up, partly because I've talked to her about it over and over again. There is no budget for additional projects like redrilling dry wells or new wells. So where the money comes from is a question. The issues in the annual report that are connected with incompleteness should not be argued or understood to be something that's a fatal or really serious issue with the underlying water shortfall that we have here. We really are in a shortfall. The calculations that are in the annual reports are so fouled up that you cannot actually, from that, determine anything. But the valuable source of information for understanding our water shortfall really is contained in the model, the flow model itself. And that's the basis for the GSP. The annual reports, according to Stetson's argument, are just almost a check the box kind of thing. And what they've done is actually consistent with that. You know, it's 150 or 180 pages, whatever it is. You know, it's a pretty heavy report. And so, ought to be good, right? Thank you.
Dr. Decker, thank you. All right. Yeah, sure.
One more thing. Did I hear mention that the GA is requesting the water district pay for a fallowing program? Did I hear that from you, Stan? There was a request made?
Yeah, yes, sir. They
All
sent
right.
us a letter.
Okay. So typically, the GA is looking at the water district to fund almost everything they do. I don't think the ratepayers would be very happy with that. The fallowing program has to do with fallowing farming out there. Farming's in the county. Farming was allowed out there by the county. Why would they want to put the burden on the district's ratepayers? So I highly encourage you to say, nope, thank you.
All right, thank you. So the water district's under enormous stress, including the inflation that the rest of us are experiencing as well, and that we'll talk more about that later. Go ahead, thank you. Mr. Neal.
Yes, Mike Neal again. I'd just like to say, and this has already been mentioned before, previous Mr. Kaczynski, that you know, after all these years that the GA has been going on, their overall relationship with the public is not improved, it's degraded. And it's degraded for a number of, you know, consistent reasons. And here we are in a time when Mr. Rotorua is probably going to go down in record as the one person to sit on a board in this valley, part of being the one vote and 4-to-1 votes on this GA board. He has consistently stood his ground. And I think there's only one occasion I recall when he was basically up against the prevailing opinion, and one of the other board members voted with him. And that was it. Now, the people of this valley that have been paying attention, which is, as usual, far too few, but comprised of a significant body of extremely knowledgeable people and others who have self-educated themselves to the point where, you know, we can claim to be, you know, at least at junior high level on these issues or higher, have brought these things up over and over. And like Mr. Decker said, you know, they have a committee, just have a committee. They ignore their recommendations. They ignore their statements. They ignore their emails over and over and over. And yet we continued having to pay exorbitant amounts of money. I've given you, you know, a graph that you may or may not remember, that the minimum amount of what you pay for your water as far as respect to water charges, if you use a lot of water, you're going to pay well over 100% more in GA charges. If you use a little water, you're going to pay 250% more in GA charges. And so here we are. And this, you know, I have to disagree about the annual reports with Mr. Decker. Something this important needs double validation on what's going on with the basin. If you can't give that to people, I don't really know how you can expect them to pony up readily to pay all the costs that it's costing them. And as far as the funding for this grant, I have to say that I view that as a very bad event, because what that does is it puts the elephant's toe in the door to going down the road for the pipeline for the imported water. And we have not resolved significant issues that need to be resolved before they can say, well, what kind of pipeline would you build if you even need to build one? How much capacity would it need to have? And they've jumped ahead of the gun. And of course, you all know, I'm sure, that this was pre-decided before the GA board ever even had its first meeting. this was what we were going to do in this valley, irregardless, and we'll have the meetings, and we'll let the citizens get up and have their say and ignore them, and we'll let the district have their say, and we'll ignore it, we'll fight it, we'll slander it with letters from our smarmy lawyers, and so forth and so on. So, here we are, and they're going to lock us in if at all possible. I think the district should speak up loudly about the fact that this is not a good thing for this grant funding for the pipeline.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Neal. Here we are.
Judy Decker. I would like to remind the public and the board that the Policy Advisory Committee has been meeting publicly for several months. There is exactly one public who comes, Don Decker. Remind you of that. I would also like to remind you that the first scientific report on water shortfall and the lack of recharge in this valley was written well over 100 years ago, and it was commissioned by the state of California. I will remind you that when the GA was formed, and we were in our forming stages of that organization, it was stated publicly that funds would be derived from, yes, the water district customers, also from the farming community. I will remind you that what we have now is at least 4 lawsuits, maybe more. Fortunately, the water district decided to file a comprehensive adjudication. Hopefully by the time Chuck Griffin's youngest grandchild is an adult, it will be solved. I have little hope. I had a lot of hope in the beginning, but I have little hope now. Because, the lawyers are involved. Okay? This is a desert basin. It is like other desert basins. I think David can kind of attest to that, having worked with his dad for many years. We continue to pump more water than nature has returned to us. This year is a wonderful example of how nature returns water to us, right? As the wind blows every day at 50 miles an hour. You need to consider these things. You need to consider how you can assist those 5 people sitting up there. Admittedly, they put the crown on their own heads, this water district included, rather than, as Mr. Neal has brought up so many times, had an elected board. My observation of the board, and I have attended every single meeting, I think, is they don't do their homework. Being a board member is a heavy responsibility. When you get something on the agenda, you need to investigate it and find out what you can about it before you vote on it, whether you're sitting on the Indian Wells Valley Water District Board, the Inyo Kern CSD, or the GA. But you need to do your homework, and we need alternate water. There is no doubt about it. When a PhD level man from 1911 says there is not enough recharge to support commercial agriculture in the Indian Wells Valley, people that came along afterwards chose not to pay much attention to that. Now, the people that live here and the people that will come after us will have to bear the burden of trying to solve the problem. And it's going to cost money. You can't even buy a piece of double bubble gum for a penny anymore.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Decker. Are there any other comments from the public present? Is there anyone online that would like to make a comment? Let's give it a few seconds for the lag. Okay, seeing none, we'll move to item E, comprehensive adjudication. Our own lawyer.
I'll make it up and making this a brief report, as there's really nothing new to report that's occurred in the adjudication in the past month. I'll remind everybody that the case was recently reassigned to Judge William Claster right before the board meeting in April. That was a good thing, because you will recall that we were basically floating without a judge for months. Every time a hearing would come before the Superior Court of Orange County, they would assign us a research clerk, and then the attorneys, everybody would object to the use of that. We don't want a research attorney making decisions. So we have progressed past that point. We have a judge that's been assigned to, I'm not sure how many. Actually, I'm aware of at least 7 active cases out there, not just 4. I'm not sure how many Judge Claster has, but he has the comprehensive adjudication. I believe he also has the reverse validation actions filed by the Mojave Pistachio and Searles Valley Mineral. We've had a case management conference on schedule for a couple months now. We finally will have that heard on May 20th. At least it's still scheduled for May 20th. Some of the issues that will be discussed is a potential extension of the waiver. It expired on April 29th. I do not know how the court is handling that or anything like that. It was in limbo. But we will raise it, and have advised the other attorneys in the matter that we're going to raise it and request that the court continue the waiver for the filing fee. And then last thing would be is, with the new judge, it may impact some of the scheduling going forward, but that's all that's really occurred in the last 30 days. So I'd be happy to take any questions.
All right, are there any questions from the board?
Yes, I was curious, is the May 20th the only court date for us, for any of the suits, or are there other court appearances?
The case management conference is on May 20th. Other than the May 20th case management conference, the Mojave Pistachio has filed a motion with the court to amend their petition in the reverse validation action. At the same time, and they've had it on file for some time, the GA has filed a demur to both of the petitions filed by Searles and Mojave Pistachio. Those demurs have been taken off calendar to allow the court to rule on the motion to amend the petition. If the court allows the Mojave Pistachio to further amend their petition against the GA, then, the GA would have to wait, receive the petition, and presumably, refile a demur if that would be their case. I don't know exactly what the dates are off the top of my head, but I believe they should be on the district's website. And if not, we'll confirm that they are and make sure. And if not, we'll put them on there tomorrow, because there are some dates. I just don't have them off the top of my head, Stan.
Okay, yeah, I would appreciate if you would give us a call-in number or a way of getting a call-in number when they do happen.
We will do so.
Thank you.
Jim, I have a couple questions. So at the May 20th, will that be when we request the extension on the waiver?
Yes.
Okay, and then have all of the notice has been sent now at this time.
It is my understanding all notices have been sent, and the last 60-day period on the last persons that will be served will run right around the end of June, June 30th, something like that.
Thank you.
Any other board questions? All right. Do we have any questions from the public? Wherein you expressed your deep appreciation for the legal profession? Okay, very good.
I would point out that attorneys have to eat as well.
And they do eat well. All right. Let's move on to item F then, General Manager and Staff Update.
Okay, we'll start with the safety report as normal. As of today, excuse me, employees at the Water District have worked 383 days since the last recordable injury. As far as production, metered production at the wells for the month of April was 137,087,087,000 gallons, which equates to 420.7 acre feet. That is not the number we report to the state board, however. We do report consumption through the distribution system, as well as non-revenue water, which would be water that's lost to leaks, flushing activities, blow-off, etc. That number, 131,573,000, or 403.8 acre feet. We did report the conservation results to the State Water Board on May 4th. Consumption was down 18.5% compared to April of 2013, which is the baseline year that the state compares to. Now, however, recently, Governor Newsom, as you know, asked for a voluntary reduction of 15% from water agencies in the current drought. So comparing to last April, we're actually up 0.5% in terms of consumption. I've seen information, most of Southern California has failed miserably, reaching the 15%. Some of the Bay Area agencies are close, but they seem to be doing better. Since the district did approve a 20% voluntary conservation rate of June of 2016, and to date we're still at 22.7. So we have seen conservation over the last couple of years. In fact, since 2009, I think we're down almost 30% in our pumping. So,
All right, very good.
I think, as I've said at the last meeting, I think you have to look at more than just the last year. I mean, customers have cut back quite a bit over the last several years. And so to ask for another 15% on top of that, I think that's a little bit unachievable for us. But not to say we shouldn't try.
I would like to note that the conservation figures you are reporting are all at the same time the town has been growing in size.
Yes.
That's makes it even more remarkable. Thank you. Please carry on.
So comparing the April results for this year to the last 4 years, 2021 was almost the same, 18.8% lower. 2020 was 32% lower. 2019, 30.4% lower, and 2018, 25.2% lower. Again, that's compared to the 2013 baseline year. Residential gallons per capita per day, the number that we report to the state board, 107.8 for April, and that does include both indoor and outdoor usage. We had 3 new connections that were added during the month. That brings the total for the fiscal year to 59. These new connections have contributed $299,10 in capital facility fees. That includes $15,204 for the month of April. Moving on to public outreach, I did attend the May 3rd Community Collaborative meeting, and among the things I reported on, I did report that the district has been working on a 10-year financial analysis to determine a rate structure that would support the 2020 general plan, and that both of those items will be presented at the June 13th board meeting. I also reported the State Water Resources Control Board has been tasked with issuing recommendations on May 25th based on the directives of Executive Order N-722 that was issued on March 28th. Some of the things that executive order requires are that water agencies implement level 2 of their water shortage contingency plans, and that they also submit a preliminary water supply and demand assessment by June 1st, which is what we're working on that now. I also mentioned the Department of Water Resources and Stantec will be holding the public meeting on Tuesday, May 17th in City Council chambers to explain the facilitation support services they'll be providing to the stakeholders within the basin. And that meeting, similar to the GA meetings, will be live streamed as well as recorded for those that can't watch it in real time or be present. And that's at 6 o'clock. Any questions on that? The last thing that I report on, the January 19th, 2022 Special Board Workshop, there are 2 items to report on. The first is the purchase and integration of the seismic data into the hydrological conceptual model. And again, just at the January 19th Board Workshop, the board did approve up to $200,000 to obtain and reprocess additional remote sensing and seismic data collected during the 1980s within the El Paso subbasin, and as well as update the hydrological conceptual model. So we have acquired, after review, we agreed to acquire 59 of the available 88 miles from the 1982 survey, as well as 40 miles from the 1988 survey. Columbia, which is the company that does the reprocessing, has completed the reprocessing, and all reports are that the quality of those lines looks to be significantly improved as a result of reprocessing it. So John Jansen, who's with Collier Geophysics, has started his interpretation of the data. Total cost, we're still well within budget, and I don't anticipate any more costs at this time. We're at $173,223.20. So again, below the $200,000, which the board did approve. And the second item is recycled water. Do you want to do that one?
All I have on recycled water at this time is that the district continues to work with tries to work with the agency on the recycled water program. Krieger and Stewart is still working with them. And really, that's all I have on that at this time.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen, I appreciate it. Very good. Item 4, booster stations and tank projects.
All right, this is an update on our current capital projects. I have some pictures to go with this update. This is up at the Gateway tank site where the new booster station and a new tank is being installed. So they've been working on the ring wall for the tank. So this is where they're digging out to put in the ring wall. So you can advance those pictures through here. So they're putting up the forms for the ring wall, and I think there's a picture of the rebar that has to go in, and then the pouring of that ring wall. So that was poured last week, and the forms have now been taken down, and they're going to be getting prepared to set the base on the bottom for that tank. And they were hoping to be digging out for the pump cans for the booster station, but there's been a delay, of course, in procuring those pump cans. So they're going to be moving on to demolition of the old C-Zone tank, the old bolted steel tank up the C-Zone site. So that's what Canyon Springs Enterprises is up to right now. And they are the contractor doing both of those projects. Any questions about any of that?
Wish I could see the picture. Okay. Very good. Well 33?
You need eyes in the back of your head, Chuck, right? So best drilling and pumps work at well 33 is complete. All the equipment was reinstalled after they confirmed the placement of the swedge, and they did have startup of the well already. So the district is now flushing the well and will be preparing to chlorinate it and get that well back online. So that's where we're at with that.
Okay, thank you. Post-earthquake Cal OES reimbursement.
As of March, that's where when they told us they were going to be processing that payment. We have not yet received the payment, so.
The check isn't even in the mail
It
yet.
may not be, who knows?
Do they mail the check or do
They
they?
do.
Okay, very
Yeah,
good. 'Cause I
it'll
can
just
keep that
arrive
joke
when-
going then. All right, item 7, financial status.
Through April of 2022, we had actual revenues of $13.2 million. which was 270,000 more than the budget. Our expenditures are at 13.78 million, which is 943,000 below budget. So our net is a negative 715,000, but we are 1.2 million better than budget right now as far as net. Our capital expenditures to date is about 1.7 million. Of that, 457,000 is funded by the COPs. And we have debt service principal of 926,000.
Okay? Go ahead.
Looking through the committee reports, Ty, I did not see in there any discussion of the RFP that was going to be sent out for quotes from the banks. Are we still working on that?
The RFP is already out.
Okay, good.
It's due back, I believe, the 23rd. It'll be on the June agenda.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Ty, did you go with Alta One or Mission Bank?
Haven't gone with any yet. We sent out a request for proposals to all the local branches.
Did you send the proposal to them?
Yes.
Okay. Conservation, item 9. Oh, solar, I'm sorry, 8, solar production.
Okay, for solar, let's see if I've got the right one. We have 2 phases, of course. The first phase being the majority of the sites. For April, we had savings of $50,068 against a guarantee of $48,772. And that is still with well 31 site not being up fully functional. For the phase 2, which is the solar site at well 35, we have a production savings, let's see, for April of $2,363 versus the guarantee of $1,984. So producing better than the guarantee at both phases.
Good.
The balance owed at the banks on that particular item, solar,
What the loan balance is?
loan balance?
I don't recall off the
Approximately.
top of my head. I know it's a 12-year loan that we took out in 2016.
So with our savings though, we're ahead of the game,
We're keeping pace.
getting there.
We're keeping pace with it right now.
Okay. All right, thank you. Item 9, conservation.
For calendar year 2022, we have 18 water waste reports received, 18 contacts made, 3 formal warnings issued, and 0 penalties issued.
Good deal.
All right. 10, the SCADA system.
I'm happy to announce that the board approved acceptance of the,
We already did it.
All right, very good. You may remove this from the agenda for the next month. All right, 11, arsenic treatment facilities.
staff has begun to rebuild the clay valves and disinfect Plant 2 in preparation for the pumping season. The filter vessels at Plant 1 have been drained and are currently drying in preparation for the removal of the media. I recently spoke with PureFlow, and we are still on track to have the under drain systems delivered in June.
Okay. All right, thank you. Item 12, operations.
For the month of April, we had 4 repairs and 41 replacements. NODES ran 3 times, saving 18,480 gallons, bringing our grand total to 8,396,615 gallons. No valves returned, leaving our year-to-date at 101 valves.
Okay, thank you very much. Were there any questions from the public about the reports?
Yes. Mike Neal, going to the hydrogeological conceptual model, I noted that was stated to be from the 80s, early 80s. Is that correct?
Yes. The seismic line data.
Okay, so I'm ignorant about this. Is there any qualms of having data that old that has not been updated since that point in time? Do you expect new things to have happened or changes to have happened since then?
No, the data is still good. Technology's improved to where you can reprocess it and get better imagery, and that's what we've been doing. It's significantly better and yields clearer definition of the structures. So it's good data, it's just a matter of reprocessing it and getting a better quality.
So it's not 1980s vintage data, is it up to, I don't understand why you noted it being data from the 80s. I don't understand that part.
The surveys were done in 1982 and 1988, Dr. Montestero on the base.
Okay.
So the data was acquired from the Navy geothermal.
I got you. Okay.
Office.
So raw data was taken and now they're reprocessing. So
Correct.
Correct.
With improved software.
So, and we don't think that, like the latest earthquake, that creates new phenomenon that wouldn't be in that data?
Most of the uplift in the motion was at the north end of the valley. There might be a small change, but it would be insignificant.
Yeah, okay,
This is looking specifically in the El Paso subbasin area.
gotcha, all right.
Yeah, and the motion on the north end of the valley was quite exciting if you're a geologist. 45-degree angle and 12 feet in both the vertical and the horizontal. Yeah, that's true. I stand corrected. Are there any other questions from the public on the reports? Okay, very good. Let's move on then to board comments and future agenda items. Start with Vice President Boyd.
I would just like to thank the staff for all their excellent work. Glad to see we're going to be removing something off the agenda in the future. Good progress. Thanks.
We'll have something to add.
They'll fill it in. Director Cordell.
I just want to say, I think that I can speak for most of the board here, that we agree with everything the audience said tonight. Stan's out there fighting for everybody in Ridgecrest, and he's not making no headway because of what we're fighting. We pay all the money, we have no say. And if somebody can come up with an idea what we can do, we need to do it. We're not getting a voice. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Stan.
All right, Director Bertora, your turn.
I'd like to say that I was very pleased to hear that well 33 is up and almost running. I was a little concerned, a rather large investment that we have that well, and it looks like it's going to come up and do well. So I was very pleased to hear that, and I have no new agenda items.
Thank you. Director Griffin.
I would just like to say thanks to the public for attending and your comments, and then also to Lauren for scrambling right before the meeting. And we had a kind of a catastrophe, and you came through with agendas and some hard copies for us all. Thank you. I know.
We don't need to assign blame. We don't need to assign blame. I'd also like to thank the public for attending tonight. I'd like to say that we're going to be talking about we're going to have presented to the board the rate study, which we have anticipated for a bit now. And the Water District is under enormous pressure from fees and increasing costs, and it'll be a good discussion. And I encourage you to attend that meeting as well. And I'd like to thank our lawyer, Jim Worth, for his service to the district. Thank you, Jim. And with that, I'm going to...
Thank you very much.
And with that, I'm going to call the open session closed at 7:23 p.m. Thank you. Let's Ready? All right, I'm going to call open session, open again at 8:53 PM.
Yes, Mr. President, the board met with staff and legal counsel on the items in their closed session. The board authorized the board president to send a response to the GA's letter regarding the fallowing program, which will be done tomorrow. And other than that, no action was taken that requires disclosure under the Brown Act. That's all I have.
All right, thank you very much. I'm calling the meeting closed at 8:54 PM.